My name is Tom Kadota, and I am a solutions engineer here at Belmar. In the nonprofit industry, I've mainly been a consultant, implementing Salesforce specific solutions and different digital transformation projects from smaller nonprofits to nationwide and international nonprofits alike. It's extremely crucial for any organization doing a digital transformation project to have clear and well-defined visions and goals for what they want. This is basically your organization's guide to success. Treat it as kind of like a holy grail of what you want to accomplish. So oftentimes when we talk about, our pain points with our current systems, our requirements and wish list items that we want to change, we get caught up in the weeds of things and the granularities, where sometimes it's good to take a step back and look at that vision, look at those objectives and say, is this directly serving our goals? So having that main objective and the big picture in mind is always great. When starting the process of defining these main objectives, it's really important to have, the very important people, I should say, as a part of this process. So, when you're starting this, whether you're from, middle management or from leadership, it's always great if you can to start this with the leadership team, with those executives, with the managers, for them to understand the struggles that certain day-to-day staff will have, because they're the closest to the hands-on experience and the ones experiencing those pain points sometimes and most of the times. But it's also good to loop in if you have technical IT or database teams. Get started with the planning process so you can understand and put together an approach how you want to tackle this digital transformation and how we're going to solve these issues. We see a lot of different types of challenges and obstacles that these organizations face when they're in these planning phases, and obviously everyone wants to be heard, and everyone might have different or conflicting priorities because obviously your main priority is going to be what you can do in your day-to-day job and what you're facing right in front of you. So probably the biggest challenge is just being aligned in the prioritization of your needs. So, we'll all have different wish lists, but we need to prioritize based on need and urgency. For example, what will have the most significant impact in this project and what would bring the most value if this problem were to be solved. But we also want to make sure that everyone is heard, and also, when going into this, we should be open to a phased approach of and adoption to these new systems or new technologies as well. When you get that executive and stakeholder buy-in, when going into these projects, there's so many benefits to doing this because you'll have proper resource allocation, whether that's budgeting, fiscal planning, dedicating the right people and teams in place to tackle this. There's that. There's also just general alignment on the vision, the goals, and approach that you're taking to this project. When everyone's aligned and kind of on the same page, it makes this process so much smoother. Gaining and engaging those stakeholders to get that buy-in is different for every organization, but some key factors is try to be as collaborative as possible. Keep the main goal in mind, but make sure that everyone is heard. Gather input from various teams, and make sure that you're collaborating with and engaging with them at a high touch, so that we're ensuring that various departments' needs are met. when planning for your budget for this project, it's really important to be strategic about it. And it's because there are different cost drivers that can influence this budget. Of course, we want to know what's the total budget, but we also want to break this down into different types. So, in my mind, there's three different types. The first one is the actual cost of the software or product that you're going to be adopting. So this is typically licensing, billed annually or monthly. Basically just the cost of the product you're using. There's also number two, implementation costs. So this is the cost of, how much is it going to take to set up the system and customize it to our needs. And there's a varying level of inputs here, basically based on complexities, what the solution mix is as well. Within this implementation cost is also, not just dollar cost, but the time cost. How long is this going to take? And how many hours is it going to take from our team, as in, the internal project team, to allocate to this project? How many hours per week does this need from our staff? The third one is ongoing maintenance costs. How much time is this saving? How much time is this going to cost from our database team, system administration team to maintain the system? Per week, do we need to activate, multiple users? Do we have to fix, certain fields or add new fields, things like that? But also do we have future phases planned? What other functionality do we want to layer on in the future? So taking that into account is really important. Some specific roles and responsibilities that should be defined before going into these projects are, a project sponsor, a project manager, your subject matter experts, and maybe your database, IT, or technical team that will be managing the system. For the project sponsor, this is someone preferably from leadership who is accountable for driving this project and is behind the greater vision and objectives. Someone who understands the business value that this is going to bring. For the project manager, they manage the day-to-day activities of the engagement and it ensures that there's resource availability, they manage deliverables and make sure that, the, organization's team is able to give the consulting team what they need to build the system. The subject matter experts typically are, either department leads or everyday staff that are closest to the current processes and understand how the business operates on that granular level. The database, IT, or technical team are really good to have on the project, just so they understand the more technical aspects of the current systems, but also they may be the ones responsible for managing and maintaining the system that is going to replace those. So prior to data migration, it's really important to start the process as early as possible for conducting a thorough data assessment and understanding your cleansing needs or just doing the data cleansing. So, taking a look at your data and figuring out how much data do we have currently, how many records or rows do we have, and what type of data is that? Are these different people, like constituents? Are the organizations like accounts? Are we collecting gift records? Are we collecting events, workshops, program data? What are the different categories of data that we have? And which of those do we need to migrate into the new system? And another aspect of that is how much historical data do we need to migrate? Typically, for tax purposes, 6 or 7 years is the standard, but also sometimes if that data isn't the cleanest, only a couple years sometimes suffices. Another consideration is thinking about how much of our data is clean versus dirty. Do we have missing information from our records? Does everyone have a first and last name as well as contact information? Do we have duplicate records? Does our data come from different systems? Is there an inconsistent structure? Or are they, spread out all over the place? Those are also things to consider. Some potential risks or challenges that, organizations should be aware of when we're going into data projects is they can get very complex, on various factors. So they can get complex when we introduce, migrating from multiple source systems. Are we migrating from a marketing system, a different CRM potentially, homegrown databases, volunteer management systems? This introduces a certain level of complexity because oftentimes, when we keep data in different sources, the data structures and data models of those systems are wildly different. And when going into a new system, a more centralized system, we want to make sure that that data structure is, and those data tables are consistent and follow some sort of standardization. Having a structured change management plan is crucial to a successful, adoption of a new technology, because you can build a system with all the bells and whistles that you want, but if it's too complicated, or if we're not all on board with the solution that's presented, then it's going to be meaningless because no one's going to use it. So, when creating a change management or adoption plan, it's very important to have a couple of things in mind. Number one is having a proper communication plan. How are we disseminating this information of this project to the entire team? What is my team's level of technical ability around this, and who might be resistant to change? And the important part of this communication plan is, making sure the benefits are known. The benefits are outweigh, the costs or the learning curve of the system. We want to make sure that, it's worth it. That's the main thing. Another thing is developing different training strategies. Are we going to appoint more of, power users in our organization, where they'll be trained on the system and they'll be able to disseminate information from a top-down approach to the day-to-day staff, and they will take over kind of that end user training? Or does everyone need to be on a call with the consulting team to facilitate that end user training? The third thing to keep in mind is, how do we keep this as simple as possible so that we're not building something that's too complex? What are some complex processes that we have now, and how can we simplify these? Because when things are simple, they're easier to use. When we talk about tailoring the training sessions, or different types of users, whether that's different users or different processes, departments, or levels of technical ability, that's where you're able to really work with your implementation partner to create a plan for these different user groups. What roles and departments will be doing what, and how can they best serve your users? Do they need a little bit more training on the platform? Do they need more training on processes? Do they need comprehensive recordings, documentation, maybe live practice sections? And just thinking about, how do we drive that engagement? So that's where, your implementation partner, such as Belmar, will really work with your team to customize based on what you need.